friendly manner. Sigvardsson, gazing through the dying mist into the distance, pointed to a shadow in the steep rock palisades. "Pull toward the left bank," he ordered the rowers. "There looks to be an opening in the cliffs where we can shelter for the night." As they drew closer, the dark, forbidding entrance of a flooded cavern grew in size until it broadened enough for a ship to enter. They found themselves in a high-ceilinged grotto that was easily large enough to hold a fleet of ships 3 times the size of the little Viking fleet. Though their ancestors had embraced Christianity, old pagan traditions died hard. Naturally formed grottos were regarded as the dwelling places of the gods. The walls on the interior of the grotto had been worn smooth by the waves of an ancient sea against the volcanic rock layers that were an extension of nearby mountains. They arched upward into a domed ceiling. The water level stopped at a ledge that ascended 3 feet and stretched into the inner reaches of the cavern for a distance of nearly 200 feet. Sigvardsson shouted through the grotto entrance for the other ships to follow. As the ships approached the landing, long gangplanks were run out and everyone scurried onto dry land, happy to stretch their legs for the first time in days. After eating and just before settling in for the night in their leather sleeping bags, 2 of Sigvardsson's young children, an 11-year-old boy and 10-year-old girl, came running up to him, shouting excitedly. They grabbed his big hands and began dragging him into the deepest part of the cavern. Lighting torches, they led him into a long tunnel barely large enough to stand in. It was a tube passage, a rounded cave system originally formed when underwater. After climbing over and around fallen rock, they ascended upward for 200 feet. Then the children stopped and motioned to a small crevice. "Father, look, look!" cried the girl. "There is a hole leading outside. You can see the stars." Sigvardsson saw that the hole was too small and narrow for even the children to crawl through, but he could clearly see the nighttime sky. The next day he put several men to work smoothing the tunnel floor to ease access. When the opening was expanded so a man could walk through while standing straight, they found themselves stepping into a large meadow bordered by stout trees. The supply of lumber to build houses was limitless. The ground was thick with wildflowers and grass to graze their livestock. It was on this generous land high above the beautiful blue fjord, bountiful with fish, that Sigvardsson would build his colony. In the following months, the colonists built thick wooden longhouses with massive beams to support a sod roof. Hungry for rich land, they wasted no time in planting crops. They harvested berries and netted fish in great abundance from the fjord. The Skraelings proved curious yet reasonably friendly. Trinkets, cloth, and cow's milk were traded for valuable furs and game. Sigvardsson wisely ordered his men to keep their swords, axes, and spears out of sight. With spring, Sigvardsson prepared to send out a large scouting expedition to explore the new and strange land. He chose to remain behind to assume the duties and responsibilities of running the now thriving little community. He picked his younger brother, Magnus, to lead the expedition. What was to have been a 2-month scouting expedition turned into an epic journey of 14 months. Sailing and rowing, except when they had to haul their boats overland to the next waterway, the men traveled on wide rivers and across enormous lakes that seemed as vast as the great northern sea. 300 miles down the great waterway, they came ashore and launched a year-long trek through rolling hills and endless grasslands. Many months later, they came to a halt when they saw the peaks of great mountains rising in the distance. In awe of the great land that seemed to go on forever, they decided it was time to turn back and reach the colony before the first snows of winter. But when the weary travelers finally reached the settlement in midsummer, they found that the entire colony had been burned to the ground, and all that was left of their comrades, wives, and children were scattered bones. Magnus and the surviving Norsemen discovered that the opening to the tunnel leading down to the cavern where the ships were